March 14, 1964. A modest house on Elm Street in Burbank, California. Linda Williams was standing on her front porch, hammering a handwritten piano for sale Liska $60 sign into her small front yard, tears streaming down her face as she tried to explain to her 8-year-old daughter Sarah why they had to sell the one thing that brought joy into their lives. "Mama, please don't sell my piano," Sarah whispered, her small hands clutching her mother's dress. "I promise I'll be good. I won't ask for anything else." What happened next would change both their lives forever, as a woman neither of them had ever met was about to prove that sometimes miracles come disguised as ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Linda Williams had been struggling as a single mother for 6 months, ever since her husband Robert had died in a factory accident. The insurance money had run out, her part-time job at the local diner wasn't enough to cover rent and groceries, and the eviction notice posted on her door that morning had given her exactly 7 days to come up with $180 or lose their home. The piano, an old upright that Robert had bought second-hand for Sarah's 6th birthday, was the only thing of value they owned. Sarah was incredibly gifted, recalled former neighbor Mrs. Dorothy Chen. Even at 8 years old, she could play pieces that amazed adults. That piano wasn't just an instrument, it was her connection to her father and her dreams. Sarah had been teaching herself to play using library books and pure instinct. Every evening she would sit at the worn bench and fill their small house with melodies that somehow made their struggles seem bearable. When Sarah played, you forgot about everything else. Linda remembered years later. Bills, worries, grief. None of it mattered when she was making that beautiful music. But on March 14th, beautiful music wasn't enough to pay the rent. "I had exhausted every other option," Linda explained. "I had borrowed from friends, applied for every job I could find, and sold everything else we owned. The piano was our last resort." That's when Doris Day's car broke down. She had been driving home from a recording session at Capitol Records when her Cadillac began making strange noises and finally stopped running just 2 blocks from the Williams house. "I pulled over and saw this little sign, piano for sale, and I could hear someone playing the most beautiful version of Moon River I'd ever heard," Doris recalled in a 1975 interview. Curious about the music and needing to use a phone to call for automotive help, Doris approached the Williams house and knocked on the front door. "Mrs. Williams, I'm sorry to bother you, but my car broke down nearby. Could I possibly use your phone?" Linda, recognizing Doris Day immediately, was stunned. "Miss Day, of course, please come in." "Sarah, stop playing for a moment. We have a visitor." But when Sarah saw who was standing in their living room, she froze at the piano bench. "Are you really Doris Day?" Sarah whispered. "I am, sweetheart, and you play beautifully. What was that song you were just playing?" "Moon River. It was my daddy's favorite song." Doris sat down beside Sarah on the piano bench. "Would you play it again for me?" As Sarah's small fingers moved across the keys, filling the room with music that seemed impossible from someone so young, Doris noticed several things that broke her heart. Sarah's shoes had holes in them. Linda was wearing a dress that had been mended multiple times, and there were boxes stacked in the corner as if they were preparing to move. When Sarah finished playing, Doris turned to Linda. "I noticed your sign outside. Are you really selling this piano?" Linda's face crumpled. "We don't want to, but we don't have a choice. We're being evicted, and I need the money for rent." "How much are you asking?" $60. "I know it's worth more, but I need to sell it quickly." What Doris did next would be remembered by both Linda and Sarah for the rest of their lives. "Sarah, how much do you love playing piano?" "More than anything in the whole world, Miss Day." "And Linda, how important is it to you that Sarah keeps playing?" "It's everything. Music is the only thing that makes her happy anymore, especially since we lost Robert." Doris reached into her purse and pulled out her checkbook. "Sarah, I'm going to buy your piano, but I want you to keep it." Both Linda and Sarah stared at her in confusion. "I'm buying this piano for $500, which should more than cover your rent, but the piano stays right here, and Sarah keeps playing it every day." Linda gasped. "Miss Day, we couldn't possibly accept that much money." "You're not accepting charity, Linda. You're accepting an investment. I believe Sarah has extraordinary talent, and talent like that deserves to be nurtured." But Doris wasn't finished changing their lives. "Sarah, Would you like to take real piano lessons? Sarah's eyes grew wide. We can't afford lessons, Miss Day. What if I told you that I know a wonderful piano teacher who would love to work with you? And what if I told you that your lessons would be my gift to you? Over the next hour, while waiting for the tow truck, Doris learned more about the Williams family's struggles and dreams. She discovered that Linda had been a secretary before Sarah was born, that she was intelligent and hard-working, and that she simply needed an opportunity to build a stable life for herself and her daughter. Linda, what kind of work would you like to do if you had choices? Doris asked. I've always been good with numbers and organization. I loved working in an office before Sarah was born. Would you be interested in a position with my production company? We need someone to help manage schedules and coordinate projects. Linda couldn't believe what she was hearing. Miss Day, you don't even know me. I know that you're raising a gifted daughter on your own, that you're willing to sacrifice everything for her happiness, and that you're facing impossible circumstances with dignity and grace. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. The changes in the Williams family's life began immediately. The next Monday, Linda started working as an administrative assistant for Doris Day's Arwen Productions. Her salary was enough to keep their house and provide stability for Sarah. Wednesday, Sarah had her first piano lesson with Margaret Foster, one of the most respected piano teachers in Los Angeles. Sarah was remarkable, Mrs. Foster recalled years later. She had natural ability that you rarely see, and the passion to develop it. Working with her was a privilege, but Doris's support went beyond employment and music lessons. Over the following months, she quietly helped with everything from Sarah's school supplies to Linda's professional wardrobe. She attended Sarah's first recital, celebrated Linda's promotion to office manager, and became a kind of fairy godmother to a family that had lost hope. Doris never made us feel like charity cases, Linda reflected. She made us feel like family. The most remarkable part of this story is what happened to Sarah over the next decade. With proper instruction and encouragement, her musical gifts flourished. She won regional piano competitions, earned a scholarship to USC's music program, and eventually became a professional pianist and composer. But Sarah never forgot where her success began. In 1979, 15 years after Doris Day walked into her living room, Sarah Williams performed at the Hollywood Bowl with the Los Angeles Philharmonic. Before she began playing, she spoke to the audience. When I was 8 years old, my mother and I were about to lose our home. We had to sell our piano, the only thing that brought us joy, just to survive. That's when an angel named Doris Day walked into our lives. She didn't just buy our piano, she bought our future. She gave my mother a job, gave me the gift of music education, and showed us that kindness can change everything. Tonight I want to dedicate my performance to Doris Day, who taught me that sometimes miracles come from the most unexpected places. In the audience that night, Doris Day listened with tears in her eyes as Sarah performed an original composition called Moon River Variations, a piece inspired by the song she had been playing that first day they met. After the performance, Sarah found Doris backstage. Miss Day, I have something for you. Sarah handed her a check for $60. This is for the piano you bought from us 15 years ago. I know you paid much more, but this is what we were asking for. I wanted to buy it back from you, so I could give it to another child who needs music in their life. Doris looked at the check and smiled. Sarah, that's the most beautiful gesture I've ever received, but I have a better idea. Together, they established the Sarah Williams Piano Fund, which provides instruments and lessons to children from families who can't afford them. We wanted to make sure that other children wouldn't have to choose between their dreams and their survival, Sarah explained. Over the next 3 decades, the fund helped over 500 children continue their musical education during family crises. The story of the $60 piano became legendary in music education circles, inspiring similar programs across the country. What Doris did that day created ripples that are still spreading, observed Dr. James Martinez, director of the National Association for Music Education. One act of kindness has enriched thousands of lives. Linda Williams, who eventually became the general manager of Doris Day's business operations, never forgot the lesson her daughter's rescuer taught her. Doris showed me that success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about what you make possible for others. In 2010, when Doris Day was interviewed about the Williams family story, her response revealed the philosophy that had guided her actions that day. In 1964, when I heard Sarah playing that piano, I heard pure joy despite her family's struggles. That kind of resilience and beauty deserves to be protected and nurtured. The $60 they were asking wasn't the price of a piano, it was the price of a little girl's dreams, and some things are worth paying any price to preserve. March 14, 1964. A single mother was about to sell her daughter's dreams for $60. A car broke down at exactly the right moment. A stranger became a guardian angel, and 2 lives were changed forever by someone who understood that the most important investments aren't in stocks or real estate. They're in people who need someone to believe in their potential. Sarah Williams went on to compose music for films, teach at conservatories, and inspire countless students. Linda Williams built a successful career and became a respected businesswoman. But both of them will tell you that their real success began the day Doris Day walked into their living room and reminded them that miracles do happen. They happen when someone with the power to help decides that helping is more important than anything else they could be doing. They happen when kindness meets opportunity. They happen when someone understands that $60 can change a life, but $500 can change a destiny. And they happen when people like Doris Day remember that fame and fortune are only valuable if you use them to make the world better for someone who desperately needs it to be better. The piano is still in the Williams house on Elm Street. Sarah's daughter plays it now, and every time she does, the music carries the echo of a lesson learned on a March day in 1964, that sometimes the most beautiful melodies come from the combination of talent, opportunity, and someone who cares enough to make sure they both survive. That's what real success sounds like. Not applause or acclaim, but the music that continues long after the curtain falls. Music that exists because someone decided that preserving dreams was worth more than any price they could pay. That's the legacy of a $60 piano that was never really sold. It was rescued by someone who understood that the most valuable things in life are the ones you can't put a price on. Like hope, like dreams, like the sound of a little girl playing Moon River as if her father was still listening. He was listening, and so was Doris Day, who made sure the music never stopped, because that's what angels do. They make sure the beautiful things survive, even when survival seems impossible, especially then. That's when angels matter most, and that's when we find out who the real angels are. They're the ones who stop to listen to the music, and then make sure it never has to end, not even for $60. Not even when $60 seems like the only choice, because angels know that some choices should never have to be made, and they make sure they don't have to be. One broken down car at a time, one piano at a time, one family at a time, one miracle at a time. That's how the world gets better. $500 at a time, but really one act of kindness at a time. That lasts forever. Like music, like love, like the memory of the day an angel walked through your front door and changed everything, for the better, forever.